stumble in the dark. You kept pushing on, but then you went too far. When your ship has sailed and all your dreams are lost, everything is wrong, you feel like it's your fault. Just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life throws lemons, just hold me. Just hold me. Just hold me. Just hold me. You're stronger now than you ever been. You gotta leave now, it's time to catch the wind. You will climb up high and look through the clouds. And when you're feeling low, I know you'll bounce back. Oh, and just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life throws lemons, just hold me. Just hold me. Just hold me. Just hold me.
We are back to the racetrack where our story with the SCL Winston Cup Series began last season. It is Twin Ring Motegi around the oval here tonight for round three's race. Good evening, everybody. My name is Frank Marchese. Thank you very much for making us a part of your evening. Alongside me, my broadcast partner, Zach Woods. And Zach, great race last week at Auto Club. Got a little bit chippy. There were 11 cautions for the 100 laps at Auto Club Speedway last week. Here, it's another big, wide, flat racetrack inside of a road course in Japan.
Yes, certainly, and a different track-to-car combination than what many of these drivers are used to. We don't get to see Twin Ring Motegi and these next-gen cars carve up the racetrack as often, maybe as we should. This track really does produce quite entertaining racing, but with that comes the prospect of finding different setups and understanding how your car is going to react around this track that, well, you don't have a lot of track time on. So we're going to be treated to a good one here tonight, Frank. A lot of these drivers are going to be learning on the fly.
Yeah, absolutely. And Twin Ring Motegi, the road course, is one of the hidden gems in iRacing. It's not a racetrack that gets a lot of play, but when you do get on this racetrack, with how nice it flows and how beautiful some of these corners are around here to get through, and how rewarding it is to get through some of these sectors once you get it right. The oval is a very, very different beast. It's got the shape and the length of Darlington, but it's flat like New Hampshire is. So it's going to be a big challenge. We're going to see some high speeds and flat racetracks, which means watch out for the right front tire wear.
Absolutely. And with the banking, as we can take a peek here in practice, that's going to lend itself to not necessarily riding right up against the wall like we're used to out of Darlington, but rather how can you maximize your tire wear on the long runs? And for a lot of these drivers, the answer is being low in the corner, hugging the paint, putting less wear on your tire. It's going to be interesting. These drivers are going to have to manage their stuff maybe without a lot of track time to test how that's going to pan out during the duration of the contest.
Absolutely. And we'll take a look now at the championship standings. Some of these drivers had used week 2 at Auto Club as their drop week last week, so we're seeing a lot of similar point counts. Derek Gilray, Todd Merkel, Barrett Flowe, and Braxton DeWeese right now are all tied for the championship lead. We heard after Auto Club last week that Braxton DeWeese will no longer be participating in this series, so really it's a 3-driver race up at the top at 180 points each. Maxwell Caldwell is right there as well. Zachary Archer, a great start to the season for Michael LaCourte, has himself right up there in the top 10 mix as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And for a track like this and the combination that we see here, this is anybody's race, right? You're going to throw out favorites. You're going to throw out expectations. I think the drivers that are willing to adapt and to strategize, perhaps, as we see so often in SCL competition, we'll probably walk away with this one being the winners. So gone are the days, I think, of high expectations for favorites. I think this is a wild card of sorts, and you wouldn't have expected that taking a look at this on the schedule.
And we have, once again, we have a lot of new drivers here tonight as we'll take a look as these guys work their way down the front straightaway. There is Barrett Flowe, who right now is the fastest of the drivers here. We'll jump on board with Barrett here. You can see there is some banking around this racetrack, but there is not a lot jumping out onto this wide straightaway, and then it's almost like racing at USA International, a heavy braking zone getting down into the turn 3 and 4 area at a completely different radius to the other end of the racetrack.
Yeah, a big track like this, you don't expect brake issues to be a topic of conversation. Normally you reserve that for the Bristols and Martinsvilles of the world, but just like you talked about, the heavy braking zones at this racetrack, drivers are going to have to be mindful about how early and often they're going to use their brakes, and setups for the braking systems on these machines are a little finicky at best. So if you don't have it tuned by now, you're probably stuck with what you got.
Absolutely. As we get set to get into the qualifying session here, again, this is where we picked up the SCL series last season, was here at the Twin Ring Motegi. So this will be our last week at Auto Club, was the completion of our first full season with this series. Excited to get season 2 technically for us underway, as we will take a look and see who is going out onto the racetrack right now. The 73 of Mark Brown, Eric Schaus, Austin Call, Mike Peters, the first handful of drivers out onto the racetrack to try to lay down a time here at Twin Ring Motegi.
Being a driver that is in competition through SCL, Frank, I guess I should be asking you a question here. Maybe I'm going to interview you here during qualifying, but
the answer is wrong.
I kind of wanted to get your opinion about qualifying. We see drivers heading out right now, but there's a litany of drivers that are staying on pit road. As a competitor, what's your preference? Do you like to see what time there is to beat for you to go out there and to lay down a qualifying lap, or do you want to go out there and get it done as soon as possible?
Yeah, I try to what I do, and it's not just in leagues, I do it in the officials and the opens as well, is I'll go out there as quick as I can and then see what time I can do, and then watch the laps back to see where I may have messed up or where I can improve, as there's Mark Brown. First lap done at a 37.13. Eric Schaus, 37.74. Austin Call blitzes that time at a 36.83 in the number 18 Toyota Liquid Death Camry. But yeah, for me, it's run early, so this way I can watch it back to see what I can change going into the race, as Charles Teed in the number 50 now jumps up to the top.
Look at that, rocking that old Robbie Gordon, maybe Jeff Burton, depending on what era of NASCAR you're going to look at. Singular throwback there. I like that paint.
It's not quite the singular sponsor is not on it, but it's certainly the same design for Charles Teed. Eric Schaus back up to the top at a 36.56. Justin Lewis on his second lap. We'll see what he can do. A little bit of a wiggle coming out of turn 4, as Lewis will be a little bit slower, about a tenth slower on his second lap. Michael Caffrey coming through turns 3 and 4 right now in the 777, ninth quickest on his first lap at a 36.72. See what he can do here. And slower by quite a margin on that second lap as well, as the next one to cross the line, or one of the next ones to cross the line, will be Ryan Farrell. Farrell 20th quickest on his first, and then fastest of all on the second lap at a 36.50. A great second lap for that number 40, as Trevor Dalton goes up to P3 on his first lap.
What a pickup by Farrell. That's crazy. 20th to first.
It's a half a second about that Farrell picked up there. Barrett Flowe completing his second lap. He was the fastest in practice. 12th quickest on lap number 1. Second quickest, lap number 2. 3/100ths of a second off of Farrell. Here comes Dalton. And Dalton will pick up the pace a little bit. Still keep it in 4th, though. Better's the time, not the position. Kenny Tripp stopping before the line. Steven Johnson up to P19. One of the newcomers, David Leaf in the number 156. He will jump from about the mid-20s up to 18th in that 756 machine. And with that, everyone has completed a qualifying attempt except for Josh Tarrant Hill. 39 competitors to make the grid here tonight.
I'm not quite sure if Josh Tarrant Hill will take a lap or if he's going to be race control tonight.
He's not going to have enough time to get out there and qualify right now. Just 10 seconds left. And we'll see. There are enough pit stalls here, so everyone should make the main race. Now, whether or not there's going to be a sprint race here, and it does not look as though there is going to be, so we will go now to the starting grid for tonight's race. Ryan Farrell with a time of a 36.502 sets the pole time. He will be flanked by Barrett Flowe on the outside of the front row. Eric Schaus and Trevor Dalton will make up row number 2, with Justin Lewis and Austin Call making up row number 3. Row 4 will go to Jonathan Emerson and Adam Lowe. Larry McKenzie and Derek Gilray will sit in row number 5. Row 6 will see Michael Accord and Matthew McMeekin, with row 7 going to Charles Teed and Michael Caffrey. Tyler Jalbert and Lee Campbell will make up row number 8. Joshua Dubé and David Leaf in row 9, with Todd Merkel and Steven Johnson rounding out the top half of the field.
Zachary Archer and Joshua Yarborough are 21st and 22nd, respectively, followed by Chris Myers and Scott Bendix in P24. Kenny Tripp and Maxwell Caldwell Surprising to see him that far back in the field, sitting at 26th. Dale Weiser and Joseph Gerholv, I'm sure we will be seeing him making his way, marching up towards the front, starting at P28. AJ Hobson and Matt Metler starting rather in your top 30. Mark Brown and Daryl Redford, 31st and 32nd. Tillman Hewer and Eric Peterson in 34th. Daniel Cruz and Andrew McKenzie rounding out that next row. And then there at the bottom of the field is Daniel Rigaldo. Rigolato, excuse me. And then Mike Peters starting 38th tonight.
So Josh Tarrant-Hill will be in race control this evening. So 38 drivers will take to the starting grid here tonight. Weather conditions for today's race. It is a hot one, 80 degrees here in Motegi, 98 degree track temperature, just past 1 o'clock p.m. in sim time, and we just saw the wind is gusting here around this racetrack at around 12 miles an hour directly to the north. So this could wreak some havoc for these guys around this big oval.
The hottest we've ever seen drivers take on a sim course in terms of track temperature. So these guys are still going to be clamoring for grip out here, but certainly quite a bit of challenge for them as presented through the elements today. Frank, there's quite a number of storylines here in the top 10 just in qualifying that I'm very impressed with. I think of right now our pole sitter, Ryan Farrell, getting P1. That is a great effort from that 40 machine, seeing him up front tonight. I'm also looking at a couple other drivers towards the back end of our top 10 field. That would be P9, Larry McKenzie in the 00 machine, as well as P10, Derek Gilray. So great qualifying efforts by some of these guys that are sitting up here in the top 10.
Absolutely, as the pace car now works its way off of pit road to get this race underway, working towards, working their way through this long turn one on their way towards the back straightaway. And again, there are going to be a couple of crossover points here tonight. There are places where, just like Monza say, this oval crosses over the road course. There could be a little bit of handling issues. The car may slip in some of those places as the run goes on.
One of the biggest concerns of this generation of NASCAR vehicles is the fact that when you have too much wheel into the car coming off of exit out of any track, it just snaps loose on you and you spin towards the inside fence. We saw that a little bit in practice. That'll be of note here tonight as these drivers are going to try to maneuver around this racetrack.
It absolutely will as we get set to go here at Twin Ring Motegi. 100 laps here in the land of the rising sun. We are green.
And it will be Ryan Farrell leading the charge in this Chevrolet down into turn one, but it didn't take very long for Eric Schaus to peek inside 3 wide for the lead. You just gotta laugh because, man, that was not expected, but they all get it sorted out.
Schaus went right to the bottom looking for the race lead. Austin Call went right from the outside to the inside off of the start. A lot of moving and shaking, and again, this track may have some pretty tricky braking points at both ends of the circuit, but it is a very, very wide racetrack, so these guys are going to have plenty of room to be able to maneuver around each other. As more midfield battling here, as that's Lee Campbell in the 014 getting passed by Charles Teed. Now 3 wide with Steven Johnson in the middle.
Just because the track is wide doesn't mean you should try it, but these drivers are experienced in terms of racing around one another, at least at the front half of this field. So driver tendencies are definitely going to come into play. You have to know who gives and takes here early on.
Michael Accord looking to the inside of Michael Caffrey. That is for the 11th position. Now 3 wide with Andrew McKenzie way out wide as somebody went wide there sliding. I believe that might have been Lief. It was. in the 756.
Saves it though. Of course, mainstay of this series is number 77, riding right up against the wall. That's Joshua Yarborough. Every single track we wind up going to, we always see that 77 riding the highline.
We saw Joshua Yarborough running all weekend, participating in the 24 Beers at Daytona event with the Thunderclap Stock Car iRacing Series. Ran solo for all 3 segments of that race, the 3 hours in the GT Le Mans cars, the 3 hours in the stock cars, and didn't quite make it to the halfway point of the 6-hour run at the finish in the LMP2s, the Dallara P217s, but a successful weekend nonetheless, I would say, for the number 77 of Joshua Yarborough, and some great experience with a different group of guys.
Certainly made it a lot farther than I ever will, so good on him.
Still up at the front, everything seems the same. Ryan Farrell, Eric Schaus, Barrett Flowe, Justin Lewis, Trevor Dalton, your top 5 at the moment. That has maintained the same. Austin Call, Adam Lowe, Matthew McMeekin, Derek Gilray, Michael Accord rounding out your top 10 as everyone's kind of getting in single file, except back in around the mid-20s. Right back around Joshua Yarborough. That's Chris Myers looking to the inside of David Lieff.
Yeah, there's some heavy hitters back here, Frank. Chris Myers back here, Todd Burkle's back here. A lot of these guys that you would sort of expect to see bouncing up towards the top 10 either didn't have great qualifying efforts or just aren't comfortable with the track car combos. So it's going to be interesting seeing a couple of these guys make their way towards the front.
Certainly will be, as there's the Ford Quality Care number 19 of Tyler Jalbert making a dive to the inside, sneaking past Steven Johnson on his inside and to the bottom of Michael Caffrey on his outside. Number 19 up in the 15th spot. And boy, a big dive there from Steven Johnson gets him around that 19 and to the outside of the 777.
Yeah, that outside move is going to be beneficial the further the run wears on. You're going to have to drive where they aren't, and Steven Johnson looks to have at least, sitting back here in 14th, that high line sort of figured out for the time being.
You just heard that big jump in RPM. These guys down at this end of the racetrack are shifting down into 4th gear. One of the nice things about these cars being more like GT cars is having that extra gear that they can go up into to grab. First, turns 1 and 2, I wouldn't think that they're shifting, but 3 and 4, especially later on in the run, they certainly are, as Maxwell Caldwell starting to work his way back forward from a 26th place starting spot in that number 94 as the cautions come out. Ooh, big spin. That's Daniel Cruz.
Oof, I'd say so. A couple cars involved, at least by first glance here.
Scott Benedict's in the 723 as well in the foreground. So we'll see what happened with these two coming off of turn 2, I would assume. Ooh, that started with Benedict's up at the front. Ooh, oh my, hard hit for Daniel Cruz. Whew.
Got to get ready for that, I guess. Wow.
There was the contact. That was with Mike Peters in the 95, and then Cruz trying to cut through on the bottom. And Benedict's really came through. It's right on board with Cruz here. Watch how hard this hit is.
Brutal.
Just tried to power past on the inside, and you can see very clearly there are no safer barriers down on that inside. Try to help protect that 752, and certainly did not. Lee Campbell and Matt Mettler coming down pit road here, as is Mike Peters. after the first caution of the night.
Then somewhere in all that, Frank, we missed Eric Schaus getting the lead.
Yep. See him on your screen right now. Trying to look back and see where that was. This was back a lap before the caution. Got a good run coming off at turn 4, it would appear, and then the big dive on the outside line. Got the pass, completed it. Away we go. Didn't have to defend it too long before the caution came out, so good for him.
No. But now we're going to stack them up and get ready for restarts here. And at this racetrack, it is a bit reminiscent of perhaps a Pocono or an Indianapolis, tracks that are excessively wide, and drivers aren't afraid to use all of those lanes. We saw a little bit of that on the green flag where they were 3 wide for the lead before they went down into turn 1. Going to be interesting stuff to see how aggressive these guys are going to be on the restart.
It's another interesting point about this racetrack. It's not just a wide straightaway. These turns, especially 1 and 2, with how broad it is very, very wide and leads to multiple lines. It's about the same width, maybe a little bit narrower, but about the same width as what we saw at Auto Club last week.
Yeah, absolutely. And so these drivers are not afraid to slice and dice between one another. We learned about that last week at Auto Club, but ultimately, it looks like through the first 10 laps or so, they're not afraid to dial it in as well and just kind of ride around in a line either. So a lot of good awareness early on.
Solid racing thus far from everybody. And I'm sure there was a very stern talking to with a lot of these guys after Auto Club last week. As we will get ready to go here for the second restart. About to go back to green flag racing on lap 12. Green flag back in the air. Schaus with the jump, and that's another thing worth noting. Yeah, no Geico restart zone here at Motegi. It's back to the old ways.
Absolutely. So these drivers are going to have to manage their starts well, and that's it. There's no governing body to kind of reel you back in. There's no restart zone. So it's getting spicy up here for the lead here, Frank.
Ryan Farrell right to the bottom there in turns 3 and 4. He will get to the race lead. Barrett Flowe and Justin Lewis battling side by side just behind them. And boy, Austin Call very, very close to the back end of that 07 as the caution comes out in the back of the field again. This time it looks like Daniel Regalado has had an incident. He has in that McDonald's number 93 Toyota. See what happened here with Regalado. Battling with Daniel Cruz. Oh, he must have gotten... Maybe he jumped off of the onboard camera a little bit too quick there. Let's try it again here from Regalado. Looked like he may have gotten a wiggle going into turn 3. Oh, no, he just... Well, if he misjudged the braking point or just had no confidence getting into the corner and ended up sliding into Scott Benedict's in the 723.
Hard to tell.
If you are watching us here tonight, thank you very much for following us on the late change. There have been some YouTube streaming issues that have plagued us here tonight. Not sure when those will be up in order, but we are recording this race, and it will be uploaded on YouTube a little bit later on in the week, possibly tonight, but definitely by the end of the week, this race will be on YouTube. So if you followed us here to our Facebook page, we thank you very much. And let everybody know that we are going to be back on YouTube here, hopefully in the very near future.
Might as well plug in those socials, Frank.
Absolutely.
We're here on Facebook, obviously, if you found us here. We're here on YouTube. We also have we have Twitter as well, and so Sim Racing Media is everywhere. So give us a follow or a like or tweet or whatever's appropriate wherever you find us.
Tony Trapasso's leading the way on cleanracing.net. Truck Series from Daytona, their penultimate round of the season, on another part of the Facebook streaming service. And then, about 10 minutes ago, the All-Pro Winter Heat Series Super Late Models kicking off. So 3 races on Facebook tonight. We're back on Facebook for one night. We are really testing the capability of their their server. We got 3 more tomorrow.
And all those shows, Frank, none of them are having as much fun as we are. So
exactly right.
So really excited to get this thing going. They should be going 2 by 2 here next time around. And it'll be a flip-flop of the last restart. It's now the 40 and the 60 leading the field.
And those races coming up tomorrow, the All-American Racing League, the Truckers Feed America Series, I got those 2 smushed up, I thought. They will be at Las Vegas tomorrow night. We will be covering the SCL Weekly Series and the Super Truck Series this week. So tomorrow night it will be the SCL Weekly Series from Lanier. And then the nightcap tomorrow night will be the Western States Racing League from Darlington. That will be at 10:05 p.m. Eastern Time as Nostradamus Woods gets it right as the lights go out on the pace car.
I'll take any credit where I can grab it. So, but yeah, we're going to stack them up and get ready to go. Taking a look here just very briefly at timing and scoring before we get going. Your biggest mover of the race, we covered him earlier, is Maxwell Caldwell, sitting in P15. He's 11 spots up from where he started. So he's making quick work of the field.
Started in 26th, which is not usually a place we're used to seeing that number 94 start these races. As Caldwell coming home in 3rd last week at Auto Club after not having the greatest of runs at Daytona to open up the season. And again, not necessarily of his own doing. That's Daytona being Daytona. As they come through 3 and 4 here, getting set to go back to green flag racing on lap 17 of 100. Zach, take us away.
2 by 2, getting ready to take the green flag here. It'll be lap 17 when they take the green flag. It's going to be Ryan Farrell and Eric Schaus leading the group down, but a little bit of a lane change here from Farrell as they go into turn 1. Just a bit of an awkward restart as they managed to get a hold of it, but it is certainly some awkwardness between the first 2 rows.
And we've seen the 18 of Austin Call doing the same thing as well. Eric Schaus really blocking off that second row there of Justin Lewis and Barrett Flowe. Boy, and this racetrack is big enough that you can get a pretty nice draft going down one of these straightaways, so your braking zone might change a little bit going into these corners. And Schaus right now able to stay ahead on that inside line. You're starting to see some guys. We saw Barrett Flowe try it. We saw Trevor Dalton try it. Guys trying to start working that outside line, trying to rubber that high lane in. There goes the 58 of Adam Lowe trying to do it.
There's certainly speed that can be made up there, but you have to be careful because the slightest slip out of that second groove, now you're in the marbles. And, well, of course, we all know what happens when you get too high up on any one of these long sweeping turns. You're probably going to wind up in the fence off of exit. But we got a great battle back behind Austin Call here. This is 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th we're looking at right now.
Yep, that is off the back of Austin Call, where we find ourselves looking right now. Looking back at Trevor Dalton, Adam Lowe there as well, Matthew McMeekin running side by side there with him for just a moment. As a matter of fact, we'll jump on board with Mr. McMeekin. Just hear how much work these cars are putting in on the straightaway, and then a big push up there by Adam Lowe causes him to lose a lot of ground, also pushes Trevor Dalton up and out of the groove, and that'll give McMeekin 2 spots.
McMeekin was very opportunistic going into that corner, backing up his entry, kind of letting the guys in front of him mess up, and he just sort of pounced on their misfortune. He was in a position to power up through the center of the corner, and that's a 2-for-1 for him.
Michael Accord trying to follow his way through in as well. There's Jonathan Emerson in the 23, another series debutant here tonight, with the 19 of Tyler Jalbert wiggling away on the bottom line. Maxwell Caldwell starting to lurk there behind the number 19.
I thought he was going to push the 19 all the way down the front stretch. He goes, no, I want all of it, and I want it now. Look at him, way low, shallow entry into 1.
Big swing there by Steven Johnson as well in the 44 to go from the wall all the way down behind the 94. Joshua Dubé in the number 25 following through as well.
Side by side, we have a great battle here for 11th right now, but there's great battles all around this racetrack right now, and just so happens to be 3 wide. They were thinking about it coming out of 4, and there it is. Collection by the 19, and that'll bring out the caution.
Caution does come out. Drivers stay straight, but the incident triggered the caution. That was Tyler Jalbert, I would have to assume, getting loose coming off of turn 4, trying to push it a little bit too hard. And we will now try to dissect what happened there. Yeah, it looked like a little bit of a wiggle there from the 19. Trying to get a different view on that. Yep, got loose coming out of the corner, and the 25 was there trying to take advantage on the inside.
That's a shame. There's just nowhere for him to go. You would think that the straightaways here are wide enough that Jalbert would have saved it, but well, I guess we'll never know.
Oh, he would have saved it if there wasn't a car right under him. He'd have been fine. He had about a country mile to go. So what we'll do right now is we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. You are watching round number 3 action here for the SCL Winston Cup Series presented by WJM Motorsports, live from Twin Ring Motegi. We'll be back right after this. Tonight's race from Twin Ring Motegi is sponsored by WJM Motorsports. WJM Motorsports is a team of professional and amateur virtual drivers, builders, broadcasters, crew chiefs, spotters, painters, and mechanics, all striving to win in glorious one-sided fashion. They provide extensive exposure for sponsors within real world and over the virtual racing world with an emphasis on iRacing. You can get your WJM merchandise and check out all of the drivers and partners on the team, as well as finding out more information about how you and your company can get on board with a rapidly growing, highly competitive iRacing team at WJMmotorsports.com or by sending an email to bill@WJMmotorsports.com. Back live here at the Twin Ring Motegi Oval as we get set to go back to green flag racing here on lap 27. A couple of guys taking to pit road, most of them faking out though. Right now, Ryan Farrell out in front with Eric Schaus, Justin Lewis, Barrett Flowe, and Austin Call making up your top five. Green flag back in the air. Once again, Schaus trying to get to that bottom to defend from Justin Lewis. Lewis got a better restart that time. He's going to jump down into P2.
That block did not happen as much as Schaus wanted it to.
Yep, caution came out again. Derek Gilray, the winner at Daytona, around. Looks like Eric Peterson might have had a problem as well. See what happened here is on the restart. That's Peterson in front. Oh, Yarborough didn't go on that outside line, and that stacked everyone up. Fortunately, it was towards the back of the field, so not too many guys were affected by it. But either way, on board with Peterson right now. Yarborough just, unless Yarborough started in the wrong gear, possibly?
Maybe. Feel like we get one of them once a week, and I think we might have just hit our quota.
Let's jump on board with Joshua Yarborough here for this start. He's in third. Oh, he's in third and then went to neutral. And then finally, once the revs come back down to virtually idle, he can grab another gear. So Yarborough not quick enough on the clutch, unfortunately.
That's why this guy uses uses the pedals on the wheel, man. So can't lose the game if you never play it.
It's true. That's the case. I've never lost a game of Clue in my life. Now, for these cars, if you've never driven these cars before, at least with the way they are on iRacing, you don't have to clutch to downshift. You do have to clutch to upshift, though. So you clutch into upshift, and you can either clutch to downshift, or you can do a throttle blip and try to match the RPM on the downshift, and that'll work just as fine without putting the car in neutral. However, you can throw the car in neutral on the upshift. Just letting off the throttle used to work, but a couple of patches ago, that no longer the case. As Steven Johnson comes down, never mind.
Ooh, he faked you out, Frank.
Yep,
wow.
That was a late drop in from Steven Johnson. We haven't had too many guys come down pit road. Pretty much everyone from 26th on back. Matt Metler, our very own Matt Metler, in that 716, the highest running of the drivers who have been down pit road at some point. He came down under the first caution on lap 9. Lee Campbell, Matthew McMeekin, Joshua Dubé, Mike Peters, Tyler Jalbert, Kenny Tripp, Jonathan Emerson, Scott Benedicts, Derek Gilray, Eric Peterson, Joshua Yarborough, Daniel Cruz, and Daniel Regalado have all been down pit road at some point tonight, with Regalado being scored as a retiree here this evening.
For anybody wondering, the Maxwell Caldwell march carries on. He's up to P9 here. Maybe 10th, depending on where he and Steven Johnson are going to sort out. But he's not the biggest mover of the race, Frank. That would go to P15. Tillman Hoyer. Every other week.
It's all good.
That's going to be. But yeah, he's up 18 spots from where he started.
Darrell Redford in the 227s, plus 12. Steven Johnson, plus 11. Zachary Archer in the 38, he's plus 10. As is Joseph Grijalva in the number 47, who was less than pleased with the 24 of Chris Myers after Auto Club last week. And as fate would have it, there they line up pretty much right next to each other.
Yep.
6th,
Yep,
17th, and 18th.
Let me tell you, the racing gods have a sense of humor, don't they? It seems like every time there's a rivalry that starts, you always wind up next to your buddy there on the restarts.
I remember, what was it, 2012 or 13, when Gordon intentionally wrecked Clint Boyer at Phoenix? The entire race, literally the entire race at Homestead to close out the season the very next week. They were 1 and 2 the entire night. Gordon's only win at Homestead.
Art imitates life right now,
yes,
as we see through SCL competition. But right now, it's going to be that 40 machine we're so used to seeing up front, and to his outside will be Justin Lewis in the 07.
He is to the outside. And green flag back in the air. Lewis immediately jumping down to the inside. And Lewis holding on to that position.
Yeah, the battle rages on behind them here for P3. Barrett Flowe and Eric Schaub's going at it right now. Wow, look how hard Barrett Flowe dives it into turn 3. Wow, he's going to pay for it here in the middle of the corner. He's going to hold on to it on exit. Wow.
It's that wide exit. It may hurt you in the center of the corner, but the ability to slide up all the way to the outside wall and pinch the guy below you down certainly does affect that car on the bottom a lot more than it does the car on the top, allowing that outside car to get a big run.
58 in the fence.
Yep, that was a hard hit there by Adam Lowe as well. Very hard.
Wide in front of him. Oh my goodness, there's so much drama everywhere.
It's Larry McKenzie up there as well. Boy, Trevor Dalton puts a big block on Austin Call as Dalton looks to the inside of Eric Schaus. Caldwell and Call are side by side, as are Lewis and Accord just behind them. Boy, we've got great racing all over the show here.
Most certainly, and these drivers are throwing elbows right now, trying to get everything they can here on these restarts. It's where the drivers in front of you are most vulnerable. Remember, yikes.
Boy, Accord and Lewis leading on each other big time through 3 and 4.
I feel like if we just keep talking, they won't wreck. But remember how earlier on in this race, Frank, they all got single file and kind of spaced out. You got to get everything you can right now.
These guys have not come down pit road. This was one of the big concerns after the race last season. We heard it after Auto Club last week that these guys were actually dreading coming here because the tire wear last season was so bad. These guys have not come down pit road, and we're more than a third of the way through this race, almost halfway through. These guys haven't even thought about coming down pit road.
Yes, and people who did take tires, it really hasn't paid dividends. Looking at timing and scoring right now, the first driver in line that has taken tires, he's all the way back in P22, stuck, mired back in this field.
Oh, that's Joseph Grijalva and Adam Lowe. Lowe with a big save going into turn one. Great job by the 58.
Wow, he was four-wheel sideways. Lowe has experienced, well, a bit more drama than what he cares for just in the last 4 laps or so, tattooing the wall coming off of 2, and now a four-wheel drift into 1.
There it was. There was the contact between the 47 and the 58. Great job of saving it. We stay green, and now here we go again. Repeat of last lap. A lot cleaner this time, though.
Yeah, I think Grijalva backed out of that, knowing, hey, I don't want to repeat what just happened. But great battles back here. I mean, we're right. This is 16th. We're taking a look at battles for 16th on the field right now. These guys are racing really hard right now.
It's been absolutely incredible to watch, and I said it during the break. I said, you guys, you have no idea how badly I want to get down there and go around with these guys. This is such a fun racetrack. I drove a couple of practice laps earlier today here with just the Darlington setup, and man, this place is fun to get around.
Most certainly, and it's proven that a lot of these drivers are super comfortable here, right? We've seen dive bombs, we've seen huge blocks, we've seen even leaning on one another in the corners. These drivers are in their element tonight at Twin Ring Motegi.
Now, I know the truck race is going to be at Bristol here this Wednesday, the Super Truck race, which, again, we will be broadcasting this week. We'll be broadcasting all 3 of the SCL series this upcoming week, but I'm putting in a petition to have the race change to here, as it appears as though Matthew McMeekin has had a spin, and yes, he is in pit road, so he's had an incident. We'll take a look and see what happened with the 041. Ooh.
Ooh. Ooh.
That looked like he had a bigger problem than just getting pushed.
Yes, it did. It looked like he stalled in the middle of the corner. It almost looks like a connection issue as he goes straight to the fence.
His wheel is not turning. This is where our in-car camera works very nice. We'll see what happened here. It's in 3rd gear. Can't get out of it. That's got to be a hardware failure on his end.
Yes.
Because he had no power at all after that. See if we can find a better camera that that actually shows the steering wheel. Oh, so we got a little bit here. Yeah, that's a hardware failure for McMeekin.
We get a lot of takers on pit road.
Yep, everyone's in. Working lap 40, almost halfway through.
Which, Frank, let me see here. Okay, so a couple of the drivers that pitted on lap 23, looks like 1, 2, 3, 4 guys, maybe?
Kenny Tripp, Tyler Jalbert.
Yeah, so if I'm one of those guys, it's a no-brainer. You gotta go and stay out right now. Some of those guys are pitting, but you gave up so much track position to pit on lap 23. You'd think you'd stay out to have it pay dividends now, at least in the short term.
Great pit exit by Eric Schaus gets him out in front. So that Hot Wheels number 6. Go ahead.
Beats the number 1 pit stall, Frank. That's a big deal. Ryan Farrell, of course, getting P1 pit stall, so
he'll restart in 8th, will Eric Schaus, but he'll be the first of the drivers on the freshest of tires. Kenny Tripp, Tyler Jalbert, Jonathan Emerson, Joshua Dubé, Derek Gilray, and Scott Benedicts are the 6 drivers that came down pit road under the last caution that did not come into pit here, and there's one driver I missed. Darrell Redford is out in front of this field. He has not pit at all in the 227.
Now, his strategy might be, I'm going to wait till halfway to pit, right? And then you're guaranteed to make it from here to the end. We don't quite know what the fuel mileage situation looks like, especially with the cautions we've seen early on in the front half of this race. So that might be his strategy. It's a bold one, but we really haven't seen the benefit of clean air at this racetrack either. So perhaps that might be a factor for him to perform well.
And we haven't had one of those long runs, and I know, speaking from personal experience, if I would have done what Darrell Redford just did, we're going green the rest of the way. So good luck to you, Darrell. Kenny Tripp will line up to his outside in that Whelen number 12. Tyler Jalbert there as well with Jonathan Emerson. We've seen that number 19 here a couple of times tonight. Jonathan Emerson, the Rowdy number 23, the Rowdy Energy number 23. Joshua Dubé, saw him get involved in an earlier incident. Rather light contact for that Hooters number 25. Nonetheless, P5 for him.
I'm going to look down through the drivers that stayed out, at least according to my timing and scoring. Looks like Scott Benedict pitted on lap 8. Correct me if I'm wrong, Frank, but
I'm showing 24.
Okay, well then that's why I check with you before I make these statements. So, but regardless, what we do know is that 227 machine is out there on the same tires he started this thing with. So it's going to be really interesting to see how he fends off this field.
He must not feel all that bad on that set of tires to want to run on them like that. I mean, our longest green flag run, we just had it, was about 12 laps. So it's not like these tires have been put through a real ringer. But in any event, fresh tires are still better than 40-lap-old tires, no matter how hard you've been pushing them.
Absolutely. And we've seen back in traffic that 19 machine be pretty aggressive. We've also seen other drivers starting from the inside of row 2 be aggressive on the restarts to make it 3 wide. So I think that's the perfect combination to see that 19 machine make a bold move here going into 1.
Darrell Redford off and away. A great restart for that 227. Kenny Tripp to the outside. Tyler Jalbert looking to the inside, looking for second position as the drivers with tires trying to wade their way through. Haven't gotten through any of them yet.
I guess something. Wow. Wow, what a huge block there down the backstretch. Wow. They're still blocking going into 3 and 4. That's the 92 of Barrett Flowe.
Barrett Flowe threw a big one on Trevor Dalton coming out of turn 2. Derek Gilray caught the wall coming out of 2 that last time around. Still side by side. Barrett Flowe looking to the inside. Derek Gilray still holding on that high side, even with Ryan Farrell on fresh tires under him.
Eric Schaus, I think that was Eric Schaus. Yes, in the 60 machine had a big sideways moment in the middle of 1 and 2, and somehow, some way, he saved it. The nose of that machine was pointed to the inside fence.
Oh, somebody in the back, though, isn't going to save it. A.J. Hobson looked. There was a lot of smoke in the back, but whatever happened, we're staying green.
We haven't really talked about how on these new tires, you kind of have to wear them in. They are a little slippery here on this old racing surface, so these drivers are going to be they need to be patient, rather, the ones that just pitted. But we do see a change for the lead as Kenny Tripp now in control of this contest.
Kenny Tripp now out in front. Jonathan Emerson putting the pressure on now in that Rowdy Energy number 23 Chevrolet. Chevrolet occupying 4 of the top 5 positions here at Motegi. Joshua Dubé right behind Ryan Farrell, first on fresh tires. Running in 5th right now. Maxwell Caldwell right behind him. Remember, Caldwell started in 26th position.
Yeah, the march carries on for him. If you're the 40 or the 94, you know naturally you have fast cars, and now you have fresher tires than the guys in front of you. Don't want to push the issue. Let these positions come to you, and these drivers are certainly putting on a clinic right now as we are getting closer to halfway, Frank.
Yep, we absolutely are. Maxwell Caldwell getting through on Tyler Jalbert. Derek Gilray still in the outside, and very close between Scott Benedicts and the 723 and Barrett Flowe, 3 wide as Redford clears away. Still 3 wide. Again, this racetrack is plenty wide enough for it. That's 3 wide with room for about 7. As Lewis now looking to follow Barrett Flowe through, and there goes the 44 of Steven Johnson through on Redford as well.
We've seen Johnson be very aggressive on corner entry. I'm curious how that is going to affect his long run speed. He tends to enter the corner very, very shallow. Right now, that's going to pay dividends. Of course, now he he does a high arc into the corner. He must be listening to me. But he, especially down on the opposite end of the racetrack, not just him either. Multiple drivers are making shallow entry points that will eat up your tires as it goes along. So we'll see how that will pay off. As you talked about earlier, Frank, the longest run of the race is 12 laps. I think they got a long green flag run waiting in front of them now.
Absolutely. Didn't have much, if any, green flag racing back at Auto Club last week. 11 cautions over the 100 laps last week. We're at about 5 or 6 here, but still, we've got some racing. We've got some close competition in. Speaking of close competition, Jonathan Emerson for the race lead with Ryan Farrell looking for 3rd behind him.
Emerson's got to make quick work of Tripp up front here because the 2 drivers behind this trio are on fresh tires. So quick work here. You might get a lap led before the guys on fast tires eat you up.
Emerson takes the spot. Dubé with Farrell pushing him, looking for 2nd. Maxwell Caldwell tried to swing way out wide, coming off of turn 2 to try to jump to the outside. Didn't make that work. As Farrell now trying to make it 3 wide down the straightaway. Dubé covering him off. Farrell backs out of it.
Defensive line big time by Dubé in the corner. He knows if that 40 passes him, it's backwards from here because there's a whole host of hungry cars on fresh tires behind him.
Austin Call almost catching that wall there in the lead Toyota. Number 18. 5 Toyotas in the field, one of them a DNF already tonight. Daniel Regalado, the only one of the 38 competitors no longer turning laps. Actually, take that back. Matthew McMeekin, after his hardware failure, down in 37th, done for the evening.
Tripp's doing a really good job at just taking that high arc into the center of the corner, making sure that you got to force Dubé all the way down, make him uncomfortable. That's why he's able to hold on to P2 right now. I don't think the same can be said for Dubé holding on for P3 for too much longer. There's a lot of guys behind him with fresh tires.
17-lap tire difference between the 40 and the 2 now ahead of him. As Ryan Farrell, who has been very, very good here this evening, up front for most of the night. His closest combatant, Eric Schaus, in that number 60, starting to climb his way back up through the field. We had heard that he had had a big slide coming through 1 and 2 earlier on in this run. has gotten himself up to 12th and now in the middle of this fight with Trevor Dalton, Steven Johnson, and Tyler Jalbert.
It's crazy, Frank, how wide this track is, and yet these drivers find themselves in close quarters. What a great battle we're seeing back here.
18 of Austin Call going under Joshua Dubé, who now starting to slide backwards, finds a place in line now. Barrett Flowe slotting in behind the 25. Now Austin Call looking to the outside of the 25 as Ryan Farrell goes for second on Kenny Tripp.
Been very impressed over what Tripp and Emerson have been able to do on this run, but unfortunately it looks like Tripp will face the same fate as his counterpart, who was leading not too long ago, is now experiencing a free fall back through the field. And as I say that, I now just take a peek that the 25 Dubé has slotted in nicely in fifth. So just disregard the last 20 seconds of my life and take a peek here at what the 40 machine is going to do for the leader.
Maxwell Caldwell slotting through as well, and it's the flat nature of this racetrack that makes it to where that outside line really does not work through the middle of the corner. Now, if this were a banking racetrack, the outside line would get one heck of a launch coming out of the corner, but again, because of how flat this track is, that launch doesn't really come, as there goes Ryan Farrell to the race lead, making very quick work of Jonathan Emerson. Can't say the same thing for Maxwell Caldwell behind him.
Yeah, Caldwell doesn't get the draft down the backstretch. He will eventually clear the 23 here in 3 and 4 rather, as he makes quick work of him. And the march from Caldwell carries on. He's got one more spot before he climbs the mountain and gets to first place here in this contest.
Kenny Tripp continuing his slide backwards. A big three-wide dive there for Steven Johnson, getting around both the 07 and the 25 in one shot. Up to 7th goes the 44. That's the highest up the field that he's been, almost sending the 07 into the wall.
Yeah, that 44 is not afraid to make that aggressive move going into one. I've seen him do that a few times this race. Very few are pulling it off more than Steven Johnson. Taking a look here at Trevor Dalton. He's in the 30 machine right now, trying to pick his way up through the field. You got to be patient when a guy like Dubé's in front of you. He's on old tires. You got to capitalize where he makes a mistake, drifts up perhaps in the center of the corner, pounce on him there.
And from what we've seen, it has certainly been a task of who gets to the bottom first here in these corners. And if you get there first and you're able to keep it down there, you're most likely going to move forward, as we're seeing Trevor Dalton do that now. Justin Lewis and Kenny Tripp getting very, very close to each other in the 07 and the 12. Now Tripp looking to block off Trevor Dalton on the high side. That opens the bottom line for Joseph Grijalva going down into turn number 1. And Grijalva, if he doesn't get held up too much by the 12, will take the spot.
Yeah, they are battling here for 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th back through here. So these drivers are really trying to get everything they can just inside the top 10.
Hard hit of the wall there by the 30 of Dalton. Chris Myers now starting to stick his nose into this. The season opening winner at Daytona in the Truck Series, the Super Truck Series on Wednesday nights. Chris Myers driving for the series sponsor, WJM Motorsports. And with that, let's hear a word from them as we go to break. We are 60 laps in here at Twin Ring Motegi in what has been one heck of a race. We'll be back right after this. Well, hope you enjoyed that word from WJM Motorsports, as immediately after we go to break, the caution comes out. Jonathan Emerson getting loose off of turn number 4 and sliding sideways down the front straightaway. We'll see what happened with that number 23. It's Joseph Grijalva right there in front of him, gets loose, turns back up right into the door of the 47. And just before we went on air, Zach, you said it perfectly, could have gotten a lot worse than it was.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank goodness this track is as wide as it is. I think that's just the case of Emerson's tires giving up. Remember, he's one of the group that decided to stay out under that last caution, as we're going to see from here.
It's Eric Schaus's perspective, and
Yikes. Yeah,
a little close.
Should have been a lot worse, but it wasn't. So good job on these drivers.
Get this one from the 12 of Kenny Tripp on the high side. You can see it right behind the brace there. Schaus doing a great job of not getting into him. And both of those drivers doing a very good job of not losing too much ground. Both drivers still in the top 14. Grijalva only fell down to 8th. Emerson falling down to 14th. Trevor Dalton stays out to get a lap led. Everybody else coming down pit road here after the longest green flag run of the night of about 24 laps.
And I don't know if Trevor Dalton is only out there to lead a lap right now. I'm not quite sure if I like that call here with under 40 to go. You're going to have to go down pit road. Now you're in the back. It's been really hard to pass. We've talked about it, Frank, how these drivers are all battling for the same space of real estate right next to that line. It's going to be an uphill battle if Dalton gives up this track position now.
Maxwell Caldwell wins the race off of pit road. Ryan Farrell, Eric Schaus, Austin Call, Barrett Flowe, the first 5. Off of pit road, Trevor Dalton, Michael Caffrey, Lee Campbell, and Matt Mettler deciding to stay out. So the first 4 drivers stay out. We will now return you to our previously scheduled break right here on Sim Racing Media. Back here at Twin Ring Motegi, coming off of turn number 4, getting set to go racing once again here from the oval at Twin Ring Motegi. Trevor Dalton, by not coming into pit, inherits the race lead. The top 4 not coming down pit road at all. Caffrey and Campbell battling side by side, keeping Maxwell Caldwell at bay for the moment as the caution comes out yet again.
And that's our buddy Matt Metler getting turned around here. He didn't get a great restart, but ultimately I think he got turned on the nose of Eric Schaus here. And we're going to see this all here on the replay.
And try to find old Matt here first. The heck number is he in? There he is. There's Matt Metler. Running the sister car to Darrell Redford here tonight, that Metallica machine. Metler started 4th on that restart. We'll see what happened to him now. Down into the corner. Yep, that's Eric Schaus diving in a little bit too hard. Ooh, and a hard bit of contact with the 24 of Chris Myers. Derek Gilray getting into it as well. One more time. Just a little bit too hot. Went to 60. Grijalva gets a piece. 24 gets a hard piece. Gilray punts him forward. So Derek Gilray will pop his fast repair and get back out onto the racetrack. Chris Myers will now come down pit road to repair damage that he just sustained from that. And there goes the fast repair. You saw that right front corner pop out on the number 24. Every driver gets one fast repair in this series.
Yeah, Chris was doing a really good job making his way up through the field. He had a uncharacteristic qualifying attempt tonight, and he was just slowly making his way up through the field. Not quite as ferocious as we saw out of Maxwell Caldwell, but ultimately his march will halt. I don't want to say halt. He's still got a chance. It'll reset here with about 30 to go.
He's down to 33rd position right now is Chris Myers. And he has not had a good start to this season. He was running up towards the front, but didn't get the best of finishes at Daytona from what I can remember. And then last week was running up towards the front and just wasn't able to finish the race, finish up towards the front at Auto Club last week. And then here today, he's been mired in about the high 20s to the mid-teens. 24 has not had things go his way to start this season. Winner at North Wilkesboro last year. As we are inching closer and closer to getting back to green flag racing.
A couple of people who didn't mind that caution, of course, is Trevor Dalton and Michael Caffrey. 1-2 right now. They did not pit that last time around. So going to be interesting to see how they fend off the field. Frank, I want to draw our attention here to the 3rd place car, Lead Campbell. We talked about the battle between Farrell and Caldwell during the break, how it'd be a race between those two to get to the front. Well, Campbell has passed them both.
I believe he restarted in 3rd. I might be wrong, but I believe that's where he started that last time around. He is one of the 4 drivers that didn't come into pit under that last caution.
And fended him off pretty well on that jump. Of course, we saw Matt not get the best of restarts there out of the 4. Just was overly impressed by how Lee fended off the field behind him. I know he didn't have to wait very long for that caution, but it's always hard to be the last guy in the group, right? And then you got the field of hungry, fresh tires behind you.
And it's not like Dalton, Caffrey, and Campbell are guys that have been running in the low 20s, high 30s here today. No, these guys all started up towards the front of the field. Dalton started in 4th. Caffrey started in 14th. And Lee Campbell started in 16th. So these guys started in the top half of the field and have been running in the top half of the field all day. So even with the fresher tires, this is not going to be the easiest task in the world for Caldwell and Farrell to try to get around these three, especially with Dalton.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious to see how patient these guys are. Remember that last run, we saw a deviation of strategies happen. Talked about patience with the guys on new tires making their way up through the field. Under 30 to go. Still patient, right? You still want to try to mind your P's and Q's up through here, but there is a heightened sense of urgency with some of these drivers.
Yep, and that would start to flow towards the back of the field. I'm sure a guy like Tillman Hoyer, who's worked his way up through the field on several occasions tonight, would certainly want to get up towards the front and have a good finish. As there goes Trevor Dalton away on the restart, gets a very good jump as Michael Caffrey leaves that middle lane open for Maxwell Caldwell. Caldwell shoots through the middle, gets through Campbell, and now to the inside of Caffrey to take over that second spot. A great start from the 94, and watch the 40 sliding up to the outside, almost doors the 18 of Call.
It doesn't get much closer than that between these two drivers barreling down the front stretch. Maybe it gets closer as we see it right there in 3 and 4. Meanwhile, back up front, we have Caldwell taking over the lead from Trevor Dalton. That didn't take long, took 1 lap.
Well, Caldwell up to the race lead. Ryan Farrell up to 3rd, now getting to the inside of Dalton as Dalton couldn't get down to the white line fast enough. Call and Justin Lewis wearing each other out just behind Michael Caffrey in the 777.
Yeah, Caffrey's doing everything he can to make sure that he keeps his track position right now, but the battle, it continues to rage here. Man, Frank, there's like 7 cars under a blanket right here.
On board with Joseph Grijalva right now. Stuck on that outside line. That 47 has been quick. He's plus 20 spots. He started 28th. Up into the 8th position right now is, there you see the peak, 3 wide. That was Justin Lewis peaking in the middle. Now we're on board with Lewis.
Lewis says it's go time, baby. I'm going to take it 3 wide going down the back stretch, and it looks like he's going to get enough momentum to at least be competitive. He's dive bombing it. Look at that move down here in 3 and 4.
More
Yikes.
contact with the 47. Now gets under the 30 of Trevor Dalton. Michael Accord sliding his way through, and look at Steven Johnson. We know he's not been afraid to move his way up through the field. That 44 gets another spot. Dalton continues to slide back as Zachary Archer in the 38 makes an appearance up here in the top 10 for the first time tonight.
It's amazing. Look at the drivers just fanning out, walking down the backstretch. You think we're watching an IndyCar race at Indianapolis with how much they're just trying to get out of the draft, find some clean air over the guy in front of them.
I want to make it very, very clear that that was Zach that said the IC word, not me.
Up. Apologize. But, yeah. Anyway, back to
I believe you were talking. I believe you meant the Dallara IR18 race.
Yes, the Dallara IR. Yes, okay. Absolutely. Oh my goodness gracious. Oh, man. You know what? We at Sim Racing Media have not had the greatest 48 hours when it comes to the powers that be. So might as well hop onto that train. So. Anyway, the contest rages back here towards the back end of the top 10. We have Steven Johnson and Joshua Dube going back and forth here. This is for 9th.
Zachary Archer getting through in that 8th position, trying to put the pressure on Justin Lewis, as Archer will stay in behind Caldwell, now getting a lot of pressure from Ryan Farrell for the race lead.
I think Farrell's a bit quicker than Caldwell, actually. He did pull away from him in the last green flag run when they were 1 and 2. But Caldwell says, I got clean air and I don't want to give it up.
Farrell is wearing out the back bumper of Caldwell, and now Farrell to the inside for the race lead. The man who sat on the pole here tonight wants this win. Caldwell, he's done the most work. He's up 24 positions from his 26th place starting spot. As Farrell now getting attacked to the inside. We've had an incident towards the back. The 24 of Chris Myers slow in turn two, pardon me. Michael Caffrey around backwards in turn one. No caution. See what this is about. There's Caffrey. Gets spun by Redford, and all three of those guys, Redford, Myers, all came together. And assuming Josh Tarrant Hill is in race control tonight, I guess deeming that, one, the action had already gotten past them, and even with Caffrey where he stopped right there when we ended the replay, the field wasn't close enough to garner a caution coming out, so we stay green as Caldwell looking to the inside now of Farrell. Farrell leads the lap, but Caldwell will most likely get the spot here.
We got some heavy hitters up here in the top five. Caldwell, Flowe, Call, and Grijalva now round out the top five. They're all chasing that 40 machine who's been at the top of the pylon for most of this thing. He doesn't want to give it up, barreling down the backstretch.
Joseph Grijalva, as we had mentioned earlier on, not too thrilled with the 24 after getting spun at Auto Club last week. Did not have a good finish, ended up DNFing out of Auto Club, did Joseph Grijalva, after missing the opening round of the season at Daytona. Grijalva was one of the championship protagonists last season, alongside of Braxton DeWeese and Maxwell Caldwell, fighting for the title towards the bitter end of the season.
The battle for the lead has brought third, fourth, and fifth back up to this group. There is a bit of a gap between fifth and sixth, but it looks like it will find its way slinking back up together as these two up front continue to throw elbows at each other.
Swapping that race lead back and forth, and it's going to take a long run here for these tires to wear through and see who has the pace on the longer run, is to see who is going to win this race. Caldwell has been very, very good all night long. Farrell has been out in front for most of the night. Barrett Flowe was the fastest in practice. Austin Call's been very, very quick tonight. Grijalva showing his hand after starting way deep in the field as well. 28th was where Grijalva started tonight.
Yeah, lots of great storylines, even looking out, throughout the top 10 here, but we are going to continue to focus on the top five as the battle now rages for fourth between Grijalva and Call. Right now it's Grijalva as he barrels down into turn one. Looks like he's going to get a good rotation through the center of the corner and complete the pass on Austin Call up P24 from where he started. Grijalva is putting on a clinic right now.
Michael Caffrey on and off pit road from the earlier incident that did not bring out the caution. Seeing the race for the race lead, and now look, it was a 5-car battle. Michael Accord starting to slide his way into this battle in that natural light number 17. Listen to how much he has to let off the throttle and roll through turn one here. This corner is incredibly long.
And that'll pay off as the run wears on, right? If you concentrate on making sure you're smooth through the corner, don't abuse that. Don't abuse those front tires too much. Don't skirt off the corner as I say that, he's going to do that. Thank you. And it doesn't matter. Look, it didn't hurt him, right? He's going to make a pass.
Didn't hurt him at all, as now he looks to the inside of Joseph Grijalva. Interesting to see. Accord is not going up into fifth gear. He's running fourth gear pretty much from turn 4 exit all the way around to turn 3 entry, where he goes down into third gear. So interesting decision there from Michael Accord, and just so we're not giving away his trade secrets as well. Caldwell, see what he does. up into fourth gear, and he's not getting into fifth now either.
This might just be a product, Frank, of the fact that this is the longest run of the race, right? You don't. Yeah, you got that fifth gear, but if the car's too unstable, there's no point in racing up that high up. So drop it down in the fourth, get the roll through the center of the corner in third, and carry on. So these drivers are definitely in some uncharted waters right now.
Well, it's also that, and if you're not getting down the straightaway fast enough because you're having to roll through the corner for so long to try to, one, preserve the tire, and two, just to make the corner, the RPMs may not be getting high enough for you to get up into that fifth gear. They certainly would be at the beginning of the run, but now with how long you're having to go so slow through these corners, car's not getting fast enough as we see a side-by-side battle. Ooh, that's the 19 of Jalbert going around.
Oh, man, and this changes everything. With 14 laps to go, we get a caution. Oh, I love it. This is SCL at its finest, Frank. We're going to see strategies play out. I'm sure there's going to be people further on back in the field that might roll the dice and stay out. And who knows, if you go down pit road, who knows what you're going to do. But take a look at the 19 here on the replay.
Yep, almost caught the outside wall, and I felt that exact thing during the practice session, during the test laps that I did around here. Just gets up so close to that outside wall, it almost throws you back off of it, whips the back end around on you, tries to catch it and just overcorrects again, and around he goes.
He did a really good job at driving the thing, even though it was still spinning. I know you have a lot of track to work with, but he did a really good job at not making that worse than what it was.
It didn't hit anything either, and we'll see what happens. I would have to assume everyone's coming down pit road here if you have a set of tires left on the wall. It felt like that was going to be do the opposite of the leader. Justin Lewis does come in. Eric Schaus coming in as well. Behind him in the 60, Dale Weiser, series debutant. It's a name that those of you who have been watching Sim Racing Media long enough will remember. Dale Weiser, a part of the Sim Racer's Edge series, who, as we had mentioned last week during the Western States race, Sim Racer's Edge has decided to stick with the Dallara IR18 for the upcoming season, which means that by rule, we cannot broadcast that car. So unfortunately, we will not get the pleasure of broadcasting Sim Racer's Edge Season 6. And understandable decision from what we understand. They went through every avenue. They looked at all different road cars. They looked through all different open wheel cars and found that they were very good on the road courses, but not so good on the oval. So they stuck with what was comfortable. And selfishly, I'm a little upset by the decision, but for the league, 100% understand it. And if and when that broadcast embargo gets lifted, be sure to be on the lookout for Sim Racer's Edge coming back to Sim Racing Media.
I would add my comments to that, Frank, but I'm afraid I'm going to say the wrong thing. So I think you said that perfectly, and we certainly wish them the best, and hopefully we get to see them here on our side of things in the future. But taking a look at the race right now, they're all going to be chasing that 94 machine. He did a really good job. Caldwell did at fending off a ferocious attempt by Ryan Farrell back here in second. I mean, at 40, definitely wanted it on that last run, but Maxwell just denied it.
Absolutely. And while we have a second here, we would like to remind you tonight's race from Twin Ring Motegi is sponsored by WJM Motorsports. WJM Motorsports is a team of professional and amateur virtual drivers builders, broadcasters, crew chiefs, spotters, painters, and mechanics, all striving to win in glorious one-sided fashion. They provide extensive exposure for sponsors within real world and over the virtual racing world with an emphasis on iRacing. You can get your WJM merchandise and check out all of the drivers and partners on the team, as well as finding out more information about how you and your company can get on board with a rapidly growing, highly competitive iRacing team at WJMmotorsports.com or by sending an email to bill@WJMmotorsports.com. Thank you very much to Past Me for recording that, so we have it ready. As Maxwell Caldwell and Ryan Farrell, the two guys that were battling up front for the race lead during the last run, going to be battling side by side for the race lead with less than 10 laps to go.
Yeah, taking a look through the field right now, looks like your first competitor that pitted on that cycle of pit stops will be Justin Lewis. He is 24th. So, Frank, I think it's a bit too big of a mountain to climb, even with the substantial advantage on tires.
It might just be. This has not been the easiest place to get a pass done. Speaking of Justin Lewis, as you just said, Eric Schaus back there as well. You really need to get to the bottom, and you need to get to it quick, and these corners are long. It does take a second to really get a pass done around here, so I think for Justin Lewis right now, it's going to be a matter of salvaging the best finish you can and staying as low on the racetrack as you can stay as we get set to double up and get ready to go. We will have 8 laps to the finish when we go green flag racing again.
Yeah, so just taking a look here at, the first half dozen of drivers we talked about before that caution. Now, Michael Cord was making quick work of some traffic. He's going to start on the outside of row 3 in that number 17 natural light ride. So it would be useful for any viewers out there if you're taking a look back through the field of anybody who to pay attention to. I think Cord's got something for these guys.
Did take a Cord a couple laps before those tires really started to work their way in, so he might not be all that comfortable when the tires are fresh and new and coming back off of a restart, but we'll figure it out now. See what the deal is as far as this restart is concerned. Again, 8 laps to go to the finish here at Twin Ring Motegi in what has been an enthralling race from start to finish. Sure, we've had our cautions, but boy, oh boy, have we had our fair share of great close racing up at the front of these fields. Maxwell Caldwell immediately coming off at turn 4, jumps on the loud pedal, green flag back in the air, 8 laps to go.
He's seen the advantage from P1 all night long off of these restarts, but Ryan Farrell is not letting him run away with this thing, holding on to the outside lane.
Farrell had a very good restart there, as did Austin Call, getting around the outside of Barrett Flowe for the 3rd spot. Still side-by-side racing guys trying to work their way forward. Zachary Archer, this is the highest he's been all night in that number 38, looking to the bottom of Steven Johnson for 7th and gets it. Joseph Grijalva looks out. Around goes the 95, the 12 in it as well. Mike Peters, oh, watch out. Can he trip back in front of the middle of the track? Catching more involved.
Multiple competitors involved in this. Mike Peters, as you mentioned in this, it's
Lee Campbell as well.
Mm-hmm. He was up front at one point in this race and kind of defending off some of these hard chargers that we now see in the front of the field, but we'll take a look here at the replay and see where all this started, but we did get a really good look at it as it was happening.
Let's take a look and see. Is coming off of turn 4. 95 and 12 get together, and Tripp thought he could hold it, and unfortunately didn't. Thought he could drive it away. Didn't have as much control as he thought he was going to. There's the contact that sends both those guys inside, and then Tripp locks it down. It was Redford was the car that hit him head on. Lee Campbell getting pinched as well. There's the incident happening. There's Lee Campbell way up by the wall. Ooh, and gets thrown to the inside. From on board, Darrell Redford. Oh.
There's nowhere to go.
Nope. Always a scary feeling when the Red Seas part like that, because you know you have no chance to steer away from the incident.
We're going to rack them up here with inside of 5 to go. I'm assuming, and when we get back ready to green. So, Frank, we've seen all night long P1 get jump after jump after jump on restarts. What can that 40 car do to draw even with him?
Just try to get the best jump that you can. Slide down to the inside in front of the 18. That's about all you can do. Can't beat the leader to the line. And with the way this race has gone, for guys on the outside line, you don't want to be out there when you hit the corner. Seeing Tristan Frazier in the chat. Don't know how long ago that chat was, and I thank you very much for watching. Rooting on Tillman Hoyer tonight. Tillman finding himself right now in a very solid 11th position. He's been one of those guys that's been up and down through the field all night long in the 14. Putting on a solid show. Plus 22 from where he started. Started 33rd. Up at 11th. Good run for the 14 tonight.
Yeah, a lot of comers and goers tonight, Frank, as we've seen all throughout the field, just various guys making stuff happen, but nobody's been doing it better than that guy right there, Maxwell Caldwell. He has climbed the mountain, plus 25 from where he started. Of course, he's the leader right now, and they're all chasing him.
And once again, we do apologize. We've had some streaming issues on YouTube as of late. We tried several times to get something working today as a test, and it just unfortunately did not pan out. So we are going to be broadcasting on Facebook for the time being. These races are being recorded and will be uploaded to YouTube to be viewed at a later time. But we do thank you for migrating on over to Facebook, and we will be here for a little bit of time. Be sure to check the YouTube as well, because first chance we get, we'll jump back over onto YouTube, and we'll also get a note on Twitter as well. Follow Sim Racing Media 1 on Twitter. That is our official Twitter account. Link should be in the description of the stream here at in some place, or definitely go back on the YouTube channel. It is definitely there and a little bit easier to see, I'm sure. Not in that big block of text that's down at the bottom of the screen on this stream. So once we've worked out our issues with YouTube and the YouTube streaming, we will post something on Twitter and we'll jump back over there. But again, for the time being, we will be on Facebook, which is where we will be for the weekly racing series tomorrow from Lanier. But before we get there, we have to complete the final 3 laps here at Twin Ring Motegi. Green flag getting set to come out. Maxwell Caldwell up at the front. A lot of guys bumping and banging, trying to get a good restart as they possibly can. A very good restart for Ryan Farrell on the outside line. Austin Call can't quite close the door. The 40 is going to have the lane to come down. He's going to have the ability to as well.
Nearly all night long, we've seen P1 launch as soon as possible. He chose not to do that this time, Caldwell did, and will that cost him the win tonight? As P2 is right behind him. As you can see, 3 wide back here for 6th place.
It was Archer, Accord, and Johnson. They were 3 wide for a moment. Now they're almost 4 wide here with Accord on the bottom, Grijalva in the middle, Flowe on the outside. This is all for 4th as, boy, Accord trying to slot his way through. Archer was there. Caution is out a little bit further back. It's going to be a green-white checkered finish.
Absolutely, and this was back towards, well, about last on the field.
It's Michael
Got to
Caffrey.
see that. Yeah.
See what happened with him here. Ooh, he got sent by somebody. Derek Gilray in the wall on the inside. Looked like Matt Metler possibly as well. It was either Metler or Redford, one of the two. Ooh, that was Redford.
Hard hit to the outside wall. Wow.
Caffrey took a couple of shots there as whatever incident between himself, the 46. Wow, that's a hard hit. Like a hit, if you took that in the real car, a hit half that hard. He's sat Kurt Busch for all this time. Could imagine what he'd be feeling.
On that kind of wall, mind you, Frank, we're not exactly racing at a place that's got safer barrier all the way around this. So that was a legit hit, driver's side of the outside wall that does not give.
Oh, absolutely not. So this will be the green-white checkered restart, and Matt Metler, that's who I was thinking of right there. Metler getting in that sister car. That's why we were not sure who was involved in that wreck. Metler in 18th. Zach, refresh my memory. Is this a 1 or 3 green-white checkered attempts? I'm assuming 1.
It is 1 of 1. So these drivers are going to try to rack them up here for a green-white checkered event. And for anybody that is unfamiliar with the rules of a green-white checkered, I feel like this is my job to give whenever Frank and I are together. But but a green-white checkered just simply means we're going to rack them up and put them side by side, and they're going to take the green flag and try to make it around this racetrack. Of course, with one attempt at a green-white checkered, you have one attempt. So if there's a yellow, the race is over. And then if there is a caution, nearly at any point throughout those last 2 laps around the ring, they will be called by timing and scoring around the racetrack. But ultimately, the goal is to try to race 2 laps. One, of course, green, and then the white, and then the checkered, as these drivers will race back to the finish line. So hopefully we get a good one here, Frank, as SCL is going to rack them up here for a green-white checkered attempt.
Zach Woods, color commentary extraordinaire, adding the color as the color commentator would do. So
I learned from the best, Frank. I learned from the best.
So it'd be Caldwell and Farrell, the top 2. Austin Call, I'm finding this interesting. Just the way these guys are lined up. Caldwell and Farrell are side by side. Call right up on the back of Caldwell, and Flowe was about a second back. He has since closed that gap up, but it's interesting how much room, is being given between 3rd and 4th and 1st, 2nd, and 3rd.
Well, it just depends on, I guess, driver preference and how you orient yourself during these pace laps. I know for me personally, when it's towards the end of the race and it's under yellow, and if I ever find myself up in the front, I do want to back off. I'm not the one to get on the rear bumper of the guy in front of me, try to get into his head. I'm trying to get out of my own head. So oftentimes I'm off the bumper of the guy in front of me. And maybe we're seeing some mind games between Call and Caldwell, first and third competitors, with how close they are here under yellow.
It has been quite a night here at Twin Ring Motegi. Again, on the oval, outside and inside of the road course, which you can, very clearly see as we'll jump into the blimp view here as we watch these cars going around. You see the pit wall and you see all like the pit markings. Behind that is the start-finish line for the road course. The start-finish straight for the road course. And then it goes under turn one, like right where the cars are right about now is the completion of the lap going under that tunnel to get out to the outside portion, and then down at the entry to turn 3 is where the tunnel to get out to the outside beyond the backstretch wall would be for the road course. And again, this is one of the hidden gems that doesn't get as much respect on iRacing as it should. It's a very, very fun track, and again, as I said during the open, very rewarding when you hit a section right. It's a track that gives you all of the good feely feels.
Well, another opportunity for those good feely feels will be if Caldwell gets this restart as well as he's been getting them.
Beautiful.
Remember, he
segue.
waited very late to get it going. So let's see what he does this time.
Beautiful segue on that thing. Very, very good. Caldwell, again, trying to get that good restart. Gets a good jump. Gonna leave Farrell out to dry, and that's a lot different from what we saw in the last restart. There was a lot of beating and banging and bumping. Austin Call gets to the inside of the 40, but the 40 makes such a deep dive going into the corner. Not able to get to the bottom, though. Leaves the door open for Austin Call, and the caution has come out. The 19 of Tyler Jalbert upside down in turn 1.
Oh my goodness.
How did you manage that, son? Take a look at that in just a moment, but as my timing and scoring has, Farrell is down pit road. Farrell is giving up a second place finish.
Oh no. Reminiscent. I'm going to try my best to do a Frank impersonation here, because Frank is always so good with dates and times, but being a Mark Martin fan in real life, Mark Martin is infamous for giving up a win in what was the Busch National Series years and years ago.
Bristol, I want to say 94, I want to say.
Yes, I was going to say mid-90s. And going down pit road one lap too early. That night he gave away a win. And tonight we see Ryan Farrell giving away possibly a second place finish.
Yep, a podium finish as they come off of 3 and 4. Maxwell Caldwell will take his first win of the season and claims victory here at Twin Ring Motegi. Austin Call, Barrett Flowe, your podium finishers. Boy, I don't know, was it the fuel that he may have had a problem with? He came in on lap 63. I'm surprised. If he would have had that, if he would have been that short on fuel, he's going to go from second all the way down to 32nd.
I'm not quite sure. I think down the backstretch here, is Barrett Flowe getting a push? That might just be a friendly banter kind of thing, but
no, he's under his own power.
So I know for some drivers with iRacing late race cautions, you just kind of don't remember that you got to go around the ring until the checkered flag flies, and
perhaps is the situation with Ryan Farrell altering the top three here.
So there is your top three. And while we take a second to get these guys coordinated and into the waiting room here for interviews, this is what happened with Tyler Jalbert. Tries to dive in on the, oh my goodness, another hard hit. That's with Larry McKenzie in the 00. Oof-ah.
That's a shame. Larry, I mentioned at the top of the show, had a great qualifying effort. He's normally one of those guys that is the... Man, that's such a violent wreck. Wow.
We've seen
Larry's one of those guys where seeing him in qualifying in the top 10, that was an impressive effort from him tonight, and he just wanted kind of a quiet day here, and was unfortunately 2 laps short of that. But
we've seen a couple of really hard hits here tonight. See what the turn 1 camera has to say about this. Oh, it was just, oh my goodness. And not, if it wasn't enough for Jalbert to get thrown into the wall at that angle and at that speed, then he got bounced back in by the 00. My goodness, but boy, oh boy. So hard hits all around for some of these guys here tonight. And Zach will bring in our race winner, Maxwell Caldwell, first win of the season for the number 94.
Maxwell, you have climbed the mountain tonight. It was certainly a steep one after a, let's just say, atypical qualifying effort out of you tonight. Did you feel that you had the car to win this thing? And what happened during qualifying that put you so far back?
First and foremost, holy crap, how did that happen? I'm sweating here. That was a hard race to run. This ain't my best track by no means. Practiced a ton Saturday, practiced more Sunday. We didn't even get the setup till Saturday, so knowing how it was last season and having a subpar finish, I think of 7th or 8th here last season, I wanted to at least get top 5 and keep that going. So practiced a lot. Thought I had a top 3 car. Eric Schaus really had class of the field on speed, and that 40 tonight had a lot of speed in him, but I could run with him. So qualifying, I was going for the second lap, so I always give up the first one. Gave it up and wanted to really get that big arc off of turn 4, like going up high and kind of driving it off to get the big run down the straightaway. And didn't get through 1 and 2 like I wanted, so when I got to 3, I kind of got loose, and then I just barely tapped the wall with the right rear, so it didn't count the lap. So my throwaway lap was what I had to run with. That's why we started 26th, and I was like, well, if I get top 20, we'll be good, because this is a one-groove track. So, but guys just kept pushing up. We stayed on the bottom. Believe before lap 20, we were already up close to the top 15. So, timed the pit stops right. Having a pit stall really in the middle of pit road benefited me more, I think, than being up front, because I beat the leaders on pit times every pit stop, and I don't know how, and I think it's just because I had a clear entry once I got up front, and the other guys were all on top of each other at the front of the pit road. But regardless, had a good race, but yeah, that was crazy. I didn't expect to get all the way to the lead, and then some guys did different strategies, and me and the 40, I battled it out thinking I was going to wear my tires out, but track position was king, man. Once I got in front of him, I thought if I just hold the bottom, I don't think he's going to be able to pass me. He's going to try, but I don't think he's going to pass me. And then the cautions there at the end really benefited us to cool the tires off and kind of equal everybody back out.
Yeah, so you obviously had a hot rod underneath you, being able to pass all those guys. You managed to get the win here at a very unique track car combo. What were some of the biggest challenges for you? You did discuss how this was a one groove racetrack, but if you could pick one thing tonight that was the most challenging aspect for you making your way through the field, what would that be?
Turns 1 and 2. I felt like the right front just hated 1 and 2. 3 and 4, I felt like I was great, and I don't know what you were able to see on the broadcast, but most of my passes I felt like were made right there in turn 3, just getting in the brake zone deep. It was like a road course type brake zone. So you just get in there deep, hold it on the bottom, and those guys up top slip that right rear a little bit, and I could kind of gas up off the bottom a little bit. But the only way I made passes in one was I had to get stupid aggressive in one and just shove them pretty well to the outside lane. Not shove them. I don't think I actually made contact with any car tonight. Like, I feel proud of that. Normally I always touch somebody. But, yeah, going into one, you just had to put the nose under them and force them up out of the groove. If you wasn't entering on the bottom, you wasn't really making the pass. But there was one restart that I came off the top, and I think I went from 4th to 2nd, and I had to squeeze almost 3 wide in between 2 guys in 1 and 2, and I was coming on the radio saying, "Guys, that was awesome." It was kind of neat, but it was it was a tough race to pass in, and really we just had the tires on those guys toward the end, so pit strategy didn't work for them so well. But no, it was 1 and 2, I would have to say, is the biggest challenge all night long, but yellows at the end kind of kept us in it.
All right. Well, winner here tonight, Maxwell. You're going to take a look forward to Iowa next week. You got any thank you sponsors and shout outs you want to give out tonight?
Yeah, first and foremost, my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, man. Such a blessing to be able to come here and get to run with you guys and have Merkle Racing Engine sponsor the car. That's all thanks to God. I mean, I wouldn't have all that without him and his grace and mercy on me. So thankful for Jesus for what he's done in my life and what he can do in yours. Thankful for Merkle Racing Engines for being on board. Sponsored me last season, promised him a championship, got it. Now he's wanting to run it again, so he wants to keep on going, and I do too. I think this car is sharp looking and looks good in victory lane. I'm excited for that. Thankful for my teammates, man. Austin Call, huge there at the end to be able to run with me and kind of keep that 40 on the outside. Most of the restarts he wasn't able to, but that last one he was, and if it still went green, I think it would have been beneficial there at the end. So teammates, got to thank them. Ace was in there. Just a couple different guys. I'm kind of going blank right now, but a couple of guys were in there, 5 or 6 of us, and just all running races. Justin Lewis is in there. Thankful for him. And then finally, you guys for the broadcast and the league for putting this on. SCL's got a heck of a season going on. I mean, 38 cars at Motegi. I didn't know 38 people even owned this place. So I was expecting like 20 car field here tonight, and we dang near had to run heats. So, and we were missing quite a few guys that are normal regulars. So excited to see the growth in this league. The full fields we're having, it's really making points racing get very interesting because one bad race and you're really losing a lot more than you used to. So thankful for the league and all they're doing to support this Monday night series, and thankful for you guys up there in the booth, man. Kind of getting in trouble, getting the wrist slap for putting on such great broadcast, but man, y'all are doing a heck of a job, and I love going back and watching them and hearing the call, man. Professional for sure.
All right. Well, you will find this broadcast only on Facebook tonight. I hope you enjoyed as you enjoy this win tonight. That's Maxwell Caldwell, everybody, climbing the mountaintop, getting first here at Motegi.
Thank you, sir.
All right, with that, that will now bring us our second place finisher here tonight. That would be the 18 of Austin Call. Austin, we were expecting to interview you in third, but a second place finish tonight. How did the car feel here tonight? We know that a lot of guys were really dreading coming to this racetrack because of how everything went last season. What was it like getting this car around here tonight?
Well, it was much better than last year. It was still a bit tight, but it definitely felt much better, especially on the long runs. Didn't get near as bad as last year, and track position was still definitely an issue. Where it was definitely difficult to pass, but way better setup compared to last season.
Getting through it, it appeared as though there was so much 3-wide racing, side-by-side racing. Some guys trying to block off runs because they knew getting to the inside was a ticket to the back. What was it like running around this place? It looked like so much fun.
Yeah, it was definitely fun. Obviously, I think I had a few blocks that I may regret, but yeah, I mean, it was just. Sorry, I'm blanking. Few blocks, but yeah.
We do that about
Sorry.
95% of the time on the broadcast, so you're all good. uh, we go to Iowa next week. I know there were a lot of guys during the offseason that were very, very excited to hear that Iowa was being put on the schedule for this season. What are your thoughts going into Iowa before we get to Charlotte?
I know that's a place a lot of people like. I don't necessarily like it, but I have not driven it in this car. I've only driven it in IndyCar and Super Lates. I just know I've gotten really, really tight there on the long run, and it ends up physically hurting me trying to drive this thing. So we'll see how it goes. I mean,
All right, we'll now open the floor to you. Anyone you want to give a shout out to, a thank you to for a second place finish tonight?
obviously, definitely Maxwell for helping me on those restarts, getting me some nice jumps. Then the entire Discord call I was in with I think Justin Lewis, Mike Peters, Todd Markle, Michael Accord, and a few others were in there. They definitely helped out with, especially with pit strategy there, because I think I probably would have pit sometime where I wasn't supposed to and screwed up my race at some point. Also, I would like to thank my parents and my brother for just letting me do this. I know I race a lot at night. I think 5 nights a week now.
Wow.
So, yeah.
All right, your second place finisher tonight, Maxwell Caldwell. Austin Call, pardon me. Congratulations,
All good.
bud.
Thank you.
Oh boy! Now we go to our third place finisher, Barrett Flowe, on the final step of the podium tonight. Zach, you're with him now.
Barrett, you had a pretty sporty machine tonight, starting P4 in this contest, or starting P2 rather in this contest. And didn't quite just have the car underneath you to make your way towards the front tonight to finish P1. But tell us about your evening.
Well, it was a pretty good evening. It was these types of tracks. I don't know. It just didn't seem to fit my driving style. But we were pretty bad in practice the other day when we had a little practice session. But learned a lot in that, and snuck in there and got a top 3. So I was pretty pleased with that.
A lot of the drivers tonight were talking about how this flat surface really only lended itself to being an efficient one-lane track. Did you struggle with that tonight, or what was your thought on the overall racing tonight at a racetrack where we don't really see this track-car combo very often?
I thought the racing was pretty good. 3 and 4 was definitely, I felt like a one groove, track or turn for sure. But 1 and 2, you could make that high line. I couldn't, but I saw a couple guys make that high line, that second groove work, a little bit. So you could make some moves coming off turn 2. It was pretty good.
All right, Barrett, we're looking forward to Iowa next week. Do you have any thoughts on that racetrack?
It's gonna be challenging with this car. So we'll just we'll go at it and see how we do.
All right. Well, Barrett, do you have any thank you sponsors or shout outs for tonight's event here at Twin Ring Motegi?
Yeah, I'd like to thank J.O. Flow Grading Company for the sponsor, and then, like always, my teammates Josh and Adam for all the hard work they do with the league and everything. So I really appreciate all that.
Well, Barrett, congratulations on what did turn out to be an unexpected podium from you, as there was some late race drama there towards the end under pace lap. So congratulations on snagging P3. Go and enjoy it.
Yep, thank you. We'll take them how we can get them. Appreciate it.
Fastest in the practice session, second fastest in qualifying, third in the race. A solid night for Barrett Flowe, taking every step of the podium in every session here tonight. And that, unfortunately, puts an end to what has been an incredible night of racing here at Twin Ring Motegi. It's been absolutely incredible here tonight.
There's some races that we call up here, Frank, that we just itch to be down there racing with these guys. I can't think of a race that I have felt that passion so strong. It just looked So much fun out there, and I know you were itching to get down there as well.
Yeah, I definitely was. This was a great. This would have been an incredible race to be able to get out there and run with the guys. But that's for me on Wednesday. As we'll take a look now at the final results here for tonight's race. Maxwell Caldwell takes his first win of the season. Austin Call, Barrett Flowe, your three drivers finishing on the podium. Steven Johnson and Michael Accord rounding out the top five. Joseph Grijalva with his season-high sixth-place finish tonight. Zachary Archer, Adam Lowe, Joshua Dubé, and Tillman Hoyer coming home in the top 10. Todd Merkel, A.J. Hobson, Justin Lewis, Mark Brown, Jonathan Emerson, your top 15. Joshua Yarborough, Matt Metler, Trevor Dalton, Chris Myers, and Eric Schaus rounding out the top half of the field here this evening.
Scott Benedict's followed by Charles Teed, finished 21st and 22nd. Daniel Cruz, Eric Peterson, Dale Weiser, Lee Campbell, Kenny Tripp, Andrew McKenzie, Daryl Redford, Derek Gilray, Larry, rounding out your top 30. Larry McKenzie, Ryan Farrell, Tyler Gelbert, Michael Caffrey, Mike Peters, David Larife, and then
Lief, I believe, is
Lief
is what I went with today.
There you go. Matthew McKeenan, and then Daniel Regaldo or
Regalado.
Regalado, excuse me. Frank's saving all the difficult ones for me here at the end, but congratulations to all the drivers here making a spectacular event. I know it made Frank and I jealous up here in the booth. I'm sure it made all the viewers watching jealous. We all wanted to be out there with you guys tonight. Congrats on putting on a great show.
Yeah, speaking of making things jealous, I'm sure we made YouTube a little bit jealous with the broadcast being on Facebook. I know we'll be broadcasting on Facebook pretty much the entirety of this week and most likely into next week. So be tuned over here to Facebook to watch some of these races. Again, they are being recorded, so they will be uploaded onto YouTube. But the live streaming, if you want to watch these races live, Facebook is going to be the place to be over the course of at least the next week. So for my broadcast partner, Zach Woods, I am Frank Marchese. Thank you very much for making us a part of your evening. We will see you all next week from Iowa here on Sim Racing Media. Good night, everybody.